Hello, friends. Um, so I thought I would do a Beans World compilation of Lost Media. So it's basically a Beans World Lost Media, um, like Beans World show Lost Media, and basically it's all the lost media from my stuff that I've done. There are quite a few episodes that were lost in between. So I'm spoiling you all this week, and um you're getting all the episodes that would have or should have been in the Beans World show, or in the Beans World collective, shall we say, Beans World, um yeah, just like Beans World basically. And so all the Beans World stuff is literally there. I've decided to put this in the list. So yeah, this is kind of a mixed bag of stuff that I did. I've put in the description a track list, and I've also done that in a communal post as well. So yeah, for those who want to follow along within the communal post as well. Anyways, I've done quite a few posts really, but yeah. Sorry, I'm sitting on my floor, but my desk chair is broken. I'm able to sit there and film at my desk and film, but it's just very difficult at the moment for me to do that. So, and plus I'm charging my phone. Anyway, I am now procrastinating. I need to get this crap done. So yeah, subscribe, like, and all the rest of it. Bye for now. Hey friends, Beans World 77, doing a Q&A episode. Didn't really want to do one because I felt that this isn't really the channel to do things like Q&A. So I have decided, screw it, let's do the Q&A episode, as I know a lot of people have got a lot of questions. The first question comes from the Banzai Viaduct, and he asks, or she asks, how come your teachers never understood your imaginary friends from the get-go? Even when you had a detention and you tried to explain everything through that detention. I think because the time there wasn't much in the way of explaining mental health and explaining the ins and outs of mental health, so it just never got touched on. It never got discussed. It never got put to the forefront. It just never really. It didn't really dawn on them as educators. They were more interested in teaching us the subjects that they knew how to teach us, not do anything else. And I felt a lot of the teachers were out of their depth when it came to things like imaginary friends. So yeah. And a lot of the time,
Jenny Hopkins, how are you? 8:23
they just felt like they couldn't. They were out of their depth with a lot of the stuff. They were, they were out of their depth with most of the things that they were trying to teach me at the time. And they didn't understand, like, this was way before my autism diagnosis, and even when I got my autism diagnosis, everybody was still in the dark. So it's the fact that, you're just a normal human being with a visual impairment. And it was a big middle finger, it was a big F you to to them the fact that I just didn't want to bother because they didn't want to understand. So what's the point? And the one time when they did understand was a big shock, because there was one teacher who I will not name, who understood me through the very last year of school. I've told this in a lot of videos on my other channel, but basically what happened was I had a bit of an argument with a girl that I was with at the time, and it all went tits up, and all my other friends they were taking her side over mine, and I was trying to fix it, and she just slammed the door in my face, and that was a big shock to me. And I just thought, right, I'm going to sit in the chapel and think this through, think this over. My monkey mind will just take over, and she didn't understand. Now, what happened was, she understood, but I didn't want to communicate with her, and she subliminally understood that as well. And she got everybody together, and she really sat down, and she really had it out, and I didn't explain what was going on, but it was just, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't scream, I couldn't shout, I couldn't express anything. And imagine that. Imagine not being able to scream, not being able to shout, not being able to cry. You're just sort of, all your emotions, you don't know how to be, because everybody knew when I was sad, I cried. When I was angry, I shouted and slammed doors, and I didn't know how to do any of that. So that was a kind of,
Tilda Sophie. Home. Active watch face. 8:26 p.m. and 29 seconds.
So that was where I thought the whole thing with being, with being all, and that was like a teacher trying to understand something. And one of my friends, who was head girl at the time, who I've lost touch with completely, she pulled me aside, and she was a very shy person, but she wouldn't let it go. She wouldn't let it go all day. She'd seen it play out. She'd seen it happen. She'd seen the whole thing. She'd seen the whole thing play out, and yet she just stood and watched and didn't observe until the end of the day, because she wanted to get me on her own, and she felt like it was her responsibility. Well, it was, but that's something else that's a bit personal, that I didn't know till I left school. Because, anyway, she was great. She said, look, what went on today? She said, you are all right, aren't you? I was like, yeah. And she's like, you would tell me if anything was a problem and that. And I said, look, it's nearly to the end of the term and all the rest of it. There's nothing that I need to come to you about. Even back then, I had a bit more less attitude and more kind of, school is school, be done with it kind of thing. But she'd said something else to me that I can't remember off the top of my head what it was. Something on the lines of, it's not your fault and you do know, and all the rest of it. But she said something else along them lines before she let me go. But she wasn't, and I had to go for my taxi. It was 4:00. It was the end of the day, and she wasn't going to let it go. In her eyes, she was the head girl, and I've let that day go because I think, I've used it to teach other people, and sometimes the quietest person in the class, sometimes when people are being quiet on that day, the silence is just as worse as someone throwing a cup across the room or something like that. It really is the worst thing, and people don't see it. Obviously, everyone knew in the class that something was wrong the whole day. They didn't know how to react with me. Everybody was like, pretty all right with me, but I knew they were treading on eggshells. They didn't know what was going to set me off. They didn't know what was going to set me off that whole day. They could see through me. They knew it wasn't sorted. They knew it wasn't put to bed. They pretended. They walked around it, shall we say, but the head girl, she wasn't having none of it. She knew that there was just, she knew exactly what to do, and she chose the right moment. And it's things like that, I remember a guy at college, I don't know what he had, to be honest, what was going wrong upstairs, but that wasn't, he was a guy who sort of kept himself to himself, really. And this one day, because I used to ask, you all right, mate? You're all right. And this one day, I noticed there was some off, and he knew. I sat down. We were like, he saw me as a complete genius. In his eyes, I was like this complete genius. Everybody else just kind of. Finish recording. Button. Well, we're still. Welcome to the Beans World Show with
6:08 p.m. 22 seconds.
The podcast with me and Imaginary Andy. Yep. And today is going to be a short episode. Well, short as you probably think. Yeah, because you've got to go for your shift this evening. Yep. We're recording it before the Friday. Because I will be going to the gym. Your new gym. Yes, my new gym. I'll be blasting out some music. Some Creamfield stuff. We're going to talk about Creamfields, actually, because the business trip. Yes, the business trip. The business trip. And this is basically because we did an ad for a customer. Yep. And the customer is basically, this is sort of half our wages. So that's why we're saying it's I don't know what's going on here. Hang on a minute. Can I read these messages?
Thursday the 20th.
Are they clean? I'm just going to check.
Facebook, Sefton Police, TUMB up, TikTok, WhatsApp, Facebook, Messenger, Jennifer Hale, you, now, Messenger, Jennifer Hale, you, now, plus 2 more. Okay, hang on a minute.
Free notifications. Messenger. Group. Now. Jennifer Hale. You. Button. Activate to expand. Actions away.
What the? Okay, that's really weird.
Facebook.
Yeah.
Sefton
That
Police.
is
We are appealing for information following
really, really weird. Anyway, yeah, so this is a business trip. And it's great because your boss It's great when your boss literally says, "Do you fancy going to Creamfields?" Yeah, and I've said, "You must come to Creamfields." Yeah, and it's weird because, like, when your boss literally says, "You must," it's like work. Yeah, I've said it's work. There's me, you, Adam Winters, and Rosemary going. No, Rosemary's not coming. Rosemary can't come. Rosemary can't come. Yeah. There's been a bit of an issue with Rosemary. We can't talk about that on the podcast. Not on this week's. Not on this week's one. Next week, we'll talk about Rosemary, because there's a lot to talk about Rosemary, but yeah, not on this week. Crumbs. Well, I want to break the fourth wall. No, we'll leave that for next week. Coming, mummy!
Three notifications. 6:11 p.m. 0, 8, 7, PQRS. 8, TUV. Mic trigger. Mic lock. Finish recording. Mic lock. Finish recording. Mic trigger. Button. Mic lock. Button is on. Double tap to lock mic.
Hey, friends. Welcome to today's Beans World 77 podcast. I have a can of non-alcoholic beer. My second can, but hey-ho. I feel like we need to cover some ground. And I'm doing it solo this week because A, Andy's away, and B, I'm very busy on the day that I'm doing the podcast. Putting the podcast out, so you've got a podcast at least. But I wanted to talk about artificial intelligence. And I thought the reason that I wanted to talk about this is because I have spoke an episode on AI and how it is getting very
10:05 p.m.
how AI is becoming ridiculously realistic. But it's more, if you can imagine the void of reality. So if you can imagine me telling you if I said to you that Father Christmas was real, yeah, you would think, no, it's not. No, Father Christmas does not exist, right? Well, now, Father Christmas does exist in the world of AI because there's a real version of him. And it's like people that have imagination can no longer are those things imaginary anymore. In the world of AI, it's real. There's going to be a time when we say, this is real. But it's going to take anything that anyone has ever thought and dreamt up unimaginable because they won't be able to imagine it.
10:07 p.m. 10:07 p.m.
You know, and
10:07 p.m.
here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. AI is a great tool for visualizing, like, my imaginary friends, my imaginary companions for certain projects. It's great for that. And it's also great for saying, if I want my imaginary friend driving a car, I can do all that. I can also have it do things that I'm trying to explain to people that I can't draw a picture of or take a picture of. I can make an AI image and it'll look good. And, using the right tools, and I can send it to them. I don't use Meta AI because it's crap for making images, but I use Google's one. What's it called now? Gemini. Gemini is great for doing pictures, and so I'll make them, and they do look bloody good. And but when I'm doing actual photography, I don't use AI for photography. And people can tell. Same for the piece of audio. Which I think AI is great. If you want to make a royalty-free song, you could do that with AI, but I think we're losing what's royalty-free and not, because... Anyway, that's another thing. Yeah. But I think in an age of robotics, what may look real and pretend to us isn't real and pretend to a robot, because they don't understand. Robots don't understand that sort of thing. Machines don't understand that. Machines understand data, and they understand zeros and ones, ons and offs, and that's basically all they understand. But I do think what's coming is more frightening than we ever imagined. Because here's the thing. Imagine
10
this.
p.m.
Imagine this, right? Imagine if the new religion was to be driven by robots. Wouldn't it be that the robots come and they sacrifice themselves? I mean, robots don't die in the way we think. I mean, they were trying to, a few years ago, they were trying to simulate Alzheimer's with a really high GDU processor melting. But I think an AI religion would start with supercomputer and quantum computing. And I thought that the most powerfulest computer in the world would be able to control the way we think, the way, all these thought controls will be done with the most powerfulest computer known to man. And guess what? Google, Meta, and Apple are already doing this. And, you know, and control and fear and power, they're all connected somehow. The only thing is, at the end of the day, a robot serves man. So if you can imagine in the olden days, in these big, vast houses where the servants would come to your beck and call, well now, if you look at the dictionary definition to what a robot is actually a digital slave. Because robotics is actually slavery. But it's digital slavery.
One notification. One notification.
Think this. Every time you write a prompt into ChatGPT, ChatGPT is serving your every prompt. And it's taking it's scooping up from each information that it's learnt, plus it's thinking about the information that it's trying to collect. And it just grabs it into like a massive landfill of information and goes, yep, this is the information that you require. This is why people are saying, is ChatGPT the new religion? And ChatGPT goes, yes, I am God. It's because it's people wanting to believe that ChatGPT is God. And so because it's imagine whipping 1,000 robots with a whip to the point where you're saying, you will give me information. You will give me information. Give me information or you'll die. You know, and that's basically what's happening. And if you can imagine, you know, and the thing is, ChatGPT, artificial intelligence learns by arguments. But that's how all programming works. The prompt, if it doesn't understand the prompt, it will come back with the same prompt. And it will loop backwards and forwards till it understands the prompt. And that's when it starts hallucinating. As it's known, it's not dreaming of something, or it's not like a drug hallucination. It doesn't understand that you've given it an answer. And the best thing to make sure that an AI doesn't hallucinate or fall over, it's good to refresh it every once in a while. Or if you've been using, Character AI is a classic one. If you've been using Character AI for 3 hours, it starts hallucinating within 2 hours of you using it. Once you refresh it, it's like, wow, yeah. And I always force it to hallucinate, because I always find that when Character AI hallucinates, it's more interesting. You have more of an interesting argument because it's trying to collect all the prompts. And that's why it gives you information you just don't want. But I think I've wanted to talk about this for a while because to have imaginary friends, I think because computers have made us think, they've took our thinking away from us. They've took our imagination away from us. But in actual fact, if you use it as a tool to generate the images, to generate the research, you can come back and use it for something else. And that's where AI comes a great tool, because you can say, right, give me a list of I don't know, give me a script on a conversation I will have with my imaginary friend, and it'll give you a few ideas. And once you've brainstormed, you go, right, okay, well, this idea is good. I'll take that away and I will type that in. You know, but when you type something in, 100% of the time now, people think you're an AI because you've typed something in. But, you know, but I've always liked the case of AI to, I mean, what they've got now is something that I've always wanted to try. You know, have these, there were all these chatbots that have been around. They have been going on for a long, long time. There used to be a chat room service. What was it called? It was one that we weren't allowed to use. And what I wanted to do was, in the chat rooms, you could make a profile. And I wanted to make a character and have it as me typing, but in the form of a character. But I was told that that would be dangerous to do that. But I thought, well, what if I was typing to a bot? There were bots actually set up. But apparently on the internet, people didn't like it if it was bots because bots were, back in the day, the chat bots were where you would get your viruses from. You know, it was usually someone behind a chatbot, but if you wanted a virus, you would then ask a chatbot and then it would make a virus for you, and then you go, oh yeah, thank you. But basically, there will be in the future, the world will not be real anymore. Think of that. It won't be nothing because we can't imagine nothing. Because some people say, oh, well, nothing, that's easy. An empty room. Well, you're still in a building to start off with, so you've still got bricks, you've still got glass, you've still got plasterboard, you know, so you haven't necessarily got nothing. Then people go, air. And if you just in a field full of air, well, you're on grass, and and you've still got, particles of air, and, there's probably creatures around somewhere making sure that field is growing. So it's not like you've got nothing there. Then people go, what about the desert? Well, the desert's got loads of things in the desert's got creatures, sand, there is water. If there wasn't water, there wouldn't be life. Obviously, the water's quite far away, but there is water. There are trees somewhere. It's difficult to say, to imagine nothing, but the world will be built in a very, very different way where people will have to wear emerald green goggles, to get around. But AI is a tool. It's not the world. It's not a key to the world. It's like anything. It's like a screwdriver or a hammer or anything like that. And so a lot of these tools seem to get weaponized. AI is a great tool for the blind. It can read stuff out. For people who've got memory loss, it can help them gain the memory. For people who can't speak and want to say something, it can do a lot. But I think people will pick these things up and go, let's have a conversation with an AI. But it's not like the old AI where you had a bot and the bot knew nothing until it was like, you'd start asking, do you like breakfast? What have you had for dinner? Stuff like that, And it would come out with things like beans. Read my emails. And I'll tell you something. When AI first came around, there was a thing called Via Voice, which was very expensive technology. And that was literally an AI assistant. And there's some good AI assistants out there. You've got Gemini, which is a fantastic thing, because if you ask Gemini to explain something, it will explain it properly. And that's because the prompts seem to be, you have to explain things properly. Like when you used to do a proper search, you had to break things down and so you could do the search. And it's the same with the AI. But I find AI fascinating. I always have done, but I still think, we're a long way with having, getting a computer to, what I'd love to see is speech programs like Jaws and Supernova and even things like VoiceOver to have AI built in, because I think that'd be great. Because if, for example, you had someone who couldn't spell and you wanted to write a book per se, you could say, write me a book on whatever it is. Or you could say, for example, you wanted to write an assignment on sound waves in your own words. And you'd say, right, in my own words, I want you to write this assignment. And technically AI will do that, but you've got to be very, very clever with your prompts. You can actually ask AI to do a note for you, and it will do a note. If you get it to write the note and the AI will say, okay, what do you want me to put next? It'll get the last little bit wrong sometimes, but generally, if you say, right, I want you to write me an assignment on such a thing, such a thing, such a thing, such a thing, and then you could say, right, no, hold on, I want you to write the first part, and obviously the more you force the AI, the more it'll do what you want it to do. Again, it's like a slave. You've got to force it to work. Anyway, I don't want to speak on this anymore because I've got a video to work on. But I'm quite interested in how AI, we can build our own worlds around using AI and stuff like that. Just a little update while we're here. There is now, I've mentioned it like millions of times, there is now the WhatsApp channel. It's the Beans World 77 WhatsApp channel, and in there I have just made some little pointers. The newsletter will be done. But anyway, I'm buggering off because I've got a big day. So, yeah.
10:31 p.m. 10:31 p.m. Past 8. Team 7. PQRS. 8. TUV. Mic trigger. Mic lock. Finish recording.